everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some tips on how to wear blue eyeshadow. Now, a lot of people, when they think about blue eyeshadow, especially people that aren't necessarily in makeup community or watching YouTube videos and that sort of thing, they have images of Mimi or like an 80s icon kind of thing popping up in their heads, and that's what they think of, and they say, no, blue eyeshadow, it's bad, it's wrong. But it doesn't. I mean, I think I pulled it off today pretty good. I hope. I don't know. I think it's pretty. I like it. I always gravitate to like the blues and the teals and the greens and that sort of things on palettes. And it's something that usually that's what I end up putting on my eyes if I'm going to do a bold look. I don't usually go for like the oranges and the reds and that sort of thing. It's more, yeah, the blues and the greens and that. So I just have some tips here on how to make it more flattering, especially if you don't have any experience with it, especially if that's what's coming up in your head is these pictures that you've seen before from like the 80s, and you know, you're just going, no, it shouldn't be allowed, like ban it, don't put it in palettes and whatnot. So here are some tips. And the thing that kind of got me thinking about this was I was watching or looking at some photos online of the Met Gala that recently happened a couple months ago. As far as their costumes and whatnot go, it was really out there. And I'm not here to discuss the theme of what it was or anything like that. But the thing that got me thinking was I saw Sarah Jessica Parker, and here's this like kind of fashion icon within the Hollywood and television community and stuff like that. And I looked at her and I thought, wow, she looks old. And it wasn't that she looked bad. It was just the way her eyeshadow was, and she had this blue eyeshadow on. I was like, what were they thinking? Because it could have just looked a lot more flattering, in my opinion. Maybe it looked better in person, I don't know, but the pictures that I saw, it just made her eyes look kind of swollen and puffy, and she looked a little pasty, and yeah, I just felt like her makeup artist did her a disservice in that. And I don't know, maybe again, maybe it looked better in person, and I don't want to cut her up or anything, but that's kind of what got me thinking about this, and you know, the ideas that people have about blue eyeshadow. So here are some tips that I have that I think kind of make it a little bit more flattering and easier to wear. Number one, if you are uncomfortable with blue eyeshadow but you want to try it out, the simplest way to do that is just to put some on your lower lash line. But even with that, there's tips. So if you're going to do it, you're going to take some eyeshadow or whatever on a small pencil brush, and you're going to smudge it underneath your lash line. But I would still suggest to take a darker color, whether it be a black, a navy, a brown, anything that's a deeper color than what you're doing, and just really get up there into your lash line and smudge that in before you put the blue on. Simply because, especially if you have blue eyes or green eyes, it creates a contrast between them so that it's not matching exactly or the perfect kind of color combination, it's going to take away from that. So it won't look like it's clashing, and it'll create kind of like a boundary around your eye. Even if you have brown eyes, it looks much better, in my opinion. I'm going to say that a lot, but all of this is my opinion. You can do whatever you want and rock blue eyeshadow and feel confident. But in my opinion, that I've seen in looks that I think are the most flattering, this is how I would do it. So if you're going to put blue on the lower lash line, and especially if it's a lighter color blue, like a baby blue or like a periwinkle or that sort of thing, I would definitely line your lash line above where you did it, if that makes sense. So you're going to smudge it out, but then you're going to take like a smaller brush and like just kind of pack a darker color right into your lash line there, just to create some dimension and some contrast between your eye and the shadow. Then the other thing that I would do, and this is more this would be if you're putting it on your lid, is I would do what I'm calling grounding it. And by that I mean you don't want to just slap on blue eyeshadow and just leave it. Very rarely can you get away with blue eyeshadow as a one shadow look, just because it does make someone look pasty, or it might make it look like a bruise or that sort of thing. So I think if you're taking a blue eyeshadow and you put something in the crease, it can be something simple, just like a tan, like camel color or something like that. I have the Alamar palette here that I recently got in BoxyCharm. So if you're going to put blue on your lid, I would go ahead and put this in your crease, or this, depending on your skin tone, because you do want it to show up a little bit, but just something there just to ground it and give it, again, some dimension. Otherwise, it's going to look, again, like a bruise, or like especially if it's a lighter color, it'll look very pasty, and it'll make your brow bone more pronounced, and it'll make your eyes look more closed in if you don't have it grounded. If you do put a color like this in the crease, it's going to open up your eyes more so that it doesn't, I don't know, it's just more flattering. In my opinion. So yeah, definitely I would go with a crease color, one of these two, or even a multiple ones. That's what I did today. This is why I brought this particular palette down. I have a bunch of palettes that in my collection. Most of them are limited edition, and that's why I didn't use them either. But I use this one because this is fairly new, but you can get a complete look from it. It has colors for your crease. It has colors to ground your lower lash line. Even I did that today. I don't know if you can tell, but I do have blue a little bit on my lower lash line, but I went ahead and I put this brown right into, right against my lash line, and then the blue underneath it, just to give it that dimension and to ground it a little bit. And again, you want to do that again with your upper lid as well. Not necessarily on your lash line. That's not necessary as long as you're putting on mascara or lashes of some sort. But if you need to put something in your crease. Otherwise, it's just not going to be flattering. The other thing that you need to do, and this is especially true if you have dark circles under your eyes, is conceal. Because the blue is just going to make those babies pop even more, and you're going to look more tired and more worn out, and you're going to look in the mirror and be like, this doesn't look good. So make sure you conceal and get those things covered. If you need to use a color corrector to really get in there and do that, that would be great as well. You want to also be careful about your mascara and that sort of thing, because if you have one that's going to smudge underneath your eyes, even though you've concealed, but if it's going to leave dark mess under your eyes, then it's kind of defeating the purpose of the concealer. And again, it will be more pronounced because you have that blue on your lids or around your eyes, so it's just going to make it pop out more and be more noticeable than probably what you want. The other thing to be cautious of, and this doesn't necessarily apply to brown-eyed girls because blue in general makes those eyes pop, but if you have green or you have blue eyes or violet or anything in that spectrum, especially if you're not grounding it, you need to make sure that you're finding something that complements your eye color. Either something that matches it directly or that is a contrast to it, but not something that's going to clash with it. Because again, that can make it look unflattering if you have a color that on your eyes, but it doesn't match or or if it's not cohesive with your eye color, then you might end up, it might not look that flattering. Again, if you do go for a color because you just really like it and it doesn't match necessarily your eyes, it's not cohesive or anything like that, if you're grounding it, especially if it's on your upper lid, use a black eyeliner. It doesn't have to be something to kind of separate it from your eyes. That was the other thing I noticed with the Sarah Jessica Parker one, is the color that she used was a very, very pale blue, and it was just so pasty, and it kind of clashed with her eyes a little bit. And I think if she would have just had some liner on there, not even a wing, but just something to define her eyes, it would have made it look that more beautiful and that more flattering. The other thing to take note is that if you are fair-skinned, you really do want to have some kind of contrast in the colors there, not just that blue. Just because it's going to make you look pasty, it's going to make you look ill, like something's going on. It's not going to look healthy on you, and that's usually not a look that we're going for. The next tip I have is to make sure you blend. And this goes for any kind of bold color, not just a blue. It can be for like an orange or a black or anything. If you have a bold color, you need to make sure that you are blending that eyeshadow. When you think you have it blended, stop, look, and blend again, because chances are it can be done a little bit better. You'd be surprised. You think you're done and then you go a little bit longer and you're like, oh, that's so much better. It's just the nature of a bold color. Because it's bold, it's standing out more. So if you're not blending those colors, then they are just going to be more obvious and more messy and more sloppy and not flattering. So take the time to blend. If you're going to do a bold look and it's something new to you, make sure that you're taking the time that make sure you have enough time allotted to actually get that look done. Otherwise, you might just end up frustrated or unhappy and just taking the whole thing off when it's something that you might have been this close to mastering and getting perfect. It might have taken like another 5 or 10 minutes. And the last tip I have is look for inspiration online. If you go onto Instagram, you can like hashtag blue eyeshadow and a whole pile of stuff's gonna come up. You can go onto Pinterest and find all kinds of things. You can search like blue eyeshadow looks for blue eyes, blue eyeshadow looks for brown eyes, like anything, and you're gonna get a whole pile of stuff coming up. There's a lot of things out there. Some of them are just pictures, some of them are actual tutorials that you can follow. if you are uncomfortable with it, but it's something you want to try, then I would suggest definitely going that route. You can learn so much, even here on YouTube, just by looking for different things like that, tutorials. You can learn a lot just by kind of looking at the picture and studying it and seeing what they did. And especially if they have some sort of tutorial, whether it's written out in a blog or a pictorial or here on YouTube, you can learn a lot. You can maybe feel more confident in what you're doing, and it's not as hard as it looks in most cases. It's time and blending and figuring out the colors that are going to work best for you. So I think it's well worth the time to just kind of study things and see what, you know, what strikes you as something that you would like to try. Or if you're not sure what would work, then look up your particular eye color or your skin tone along with those colors that you want to use and get those ideas and try them out. Why not? Especially one tip I heard, I think Jaclyn Hill said she did it or whatever, and I've always said it's a great idea, is before you go to bed, you're going to be taking your makeup off anyway, so take 5-10 minutes and just try a new technique. Try something new. You might be surprised at how well or how easy it was and how well it turned out. You're going to bed anyway, you're taking your makeup off, so I mean, it's 5-10 minutes lost. That's it. It's not like you're running out the door and going to work and you have to clean your face or go out looking like Cookie Monster. Like, no. If you take the time to learn, it's not that hard. It's not as scary as it seems, and it doesn't have to look like Mimi or Oprah from the 1980s. And that's all for today, everyone. I hope I was able to help you out and teach you something new, maybe give you some new tips or tricks, or maybe, you know, just validated some things that you had in your head. Or, you know, maybe you're one of those people that thinks blue eyeshadow was just wrong and you're like, maybe not so much. Or maybe you are still dead set against blue eyeshadow. It's not for everyone. I'm just throwing some tips out there and I hope that I can help. I really hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and I will talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.